Good evening everyone, and welcome to the lecture tonight where we'll be talking about sexual health. This is often the missing link. I have people contact me and say, Barbara, I'm exercising, I'm drinking my water, I'm eating well, I've just been diagnosed with breast cancer, or if it's a man it may be prostate cancer. Back to the lady it might be uterine cancer, it might be endometriosis, it might be fibroids in the uterus, cysts in the ovaries. All of these are an indication of a hormonal imbalance. So one can be doing everything right, but if the hormones are out of balance, then they will not have total healing. Hormones are like little chemical messengers in the body, and their proper balance is of the utmost importance. You see, the body runs according to precision balance, and so this balance is essential for the proper functioning and running of the human body. So what I'm going to do this evening, I'm going to show you how the hormones run, the role they play in the body. Then I'm going to show you what throws the balance out. And then I'm going to show you how you can bring the balance back in, because you know that's what the body wants, and that's what it ever is striving for, is to get us back into balance. So that is the good news. That once you give the body the right conditions, the balance automatically comes. So let's have a look at these little chemical messengers. What is interesting is the little chemical messengers in our bodies are made from cholesterol. Now apparently we're looking for a better pen. Can you see that all right? Yeah. Cholesterol is a very important lipid in the body. In fact, Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, who's a cardiovascular surgeon, he said for the first time, normal levels of a normal vital body substance is being called a disease. And he's referring to cholesterol. If your cholesterol levels are too low, then it's going to affect your hormones. And there is absolutely not one dot of truth, thank you, that cholesterol or saturated fat cause heart disease. Did you know that? No proof at all. And in his book, The Cholesterol Con, Dr. Malcolm Kendrick said, we are still waiting for the research. Now that is not science. Science is not hoping that the research will come. That's not science at all. Science is that it's well proven. If someone has low cholesterol levels, it can affect their hormones, because our hormones are made from cholesterol. From cholesterol, the body makes pregnenolone. And pregnenolone is the basis for the making of progesterone. Progesterone, as you will see as we go through the lecture tonight, is a very important hormone, because from progesterone the body makes estrogen, and from progesterone the body makes testosterone, and from progesterone the body makes the adrenal hormones. So the adrenal hormones are often called the fight and the flight hormones. So progesterone's a very important hormone. Now in a man, number one hormone is progesterone, number two is testosterone, and number three is estrogen. Whereas in a woman, number one hormone, again, is still progesterone. Number two hormone is estrogen. And number three hormone is testosterone. So men and women have the same hormones, it's just in different amounts. And if a man's estrogen, goes too high, it can displace the progesterone and the man can become effeminate. And if estrogen goes too high, something else can happen, and that is testosterone can go too high. And high testosterones convert to dehydroxytestosterone, which can cause inflammation of the prostate gland. So that they are some symptoms of a hormonal imbalance in a man. In a woman, if progesterone drops and estrogen goes too high, it can cause abnormal growths in her reproductive organs, breast cancer, uterine cancer, fibroids in the uterus, cysts on the ovaries. And if her testosterone goes too high, a woman can be masculine. So you can see that these problems that I've mentioned are a result of this hormonal imbalance. So let's begin by looking at the monthly cycle. The monthly cycle is a 28-day cycle. So day 1, 14 in the middle, 21, 28 days. And I'm going to show you how the different hormones work together. So day 1 of the monthly cycle, our two main players in this monthly cycle, or we're going to liken it to a dance, are progesterone. And progesterone's role in the human body is that, well, one of its main roles is a happy hormone. And in this dance of the hormones, progesterone is going to be our blue. The other player in the dance is estrogen, and in the dance, estrogen is going to be black. And estrogen's role in the body is that of a cell proliferator. Cell proliferator basically means causes massive cell growth. You see, it's estrogen that causes the skinny young girl to develop into a beautiful, shapely woman. But if estrogen levels remain too high, that beautiful, shapely woman can get out of shape the other way. I like estrogen to fire and water. Good slave, bad master. So it's not that estrogen is bad. Estrogen is necessary, but in the right amounts. So day 1 of the monthly cycle, progesterone levels are low. Day 1 of the monthly cycle, estrogen levels are also low. Estrogen is going to be a wiggly line. So here's estrogen. But by day 7, estrogen levels are rising. So what role does estrogen play at this time of the cycle or this time of the month? Let's go to the reproductive organs where this dance, this hormonal dance is played out. This is the uterus. These are the fallopian tubes. They're the filaments on the end of the fallopian tubes. Here is the ovaries. They're connected to the uterus by a ligament. This is the cervix, and this is the birth canal. So this time of the month, this rise in estrogen is causing massive cell growth in the lining of the uterus, causing the blood nest to develop. Estrogen is also causing massive cell growth in the ovaries, causing an egg to develop. Estrogen also causes a release of a lubricant in the birth canal. By day 14, a fully developed egg bursts forth from the ovaries. The little filaments on the end of the fallopian tube pull the egg up, and the fallopian tubes are ever moving like this, causing the egg to move up, up. Now the hole where the egg bursts forth develops a blister, and the blister is called corpus luteum. Corpus luteum I've written in blue because it is the main site of progesterone production in a woman's body. Can you see the importance of a woman ovulating every month? Because when she ovulates, the release of the egg, it causes the development of corpus luteum. And so with the development of corpus luteum, progesterone levels are maintained, and it's very important for that because it automatically balances the other. In a man, his testes are where progesterone, estrogen and testosterone are made. So with the development of corpus luteum, now at day 14 we have a rise in progesterone levels. There is no need for estrogen now. We have our blood nest, we have our egg, our lubricant, and so estrogen is given the message it can go now backstage. So with the rise in progesterone, what effect does that happen? With the rise in progesterone, it now has a ripening effect on the lining of the uterus. So progesterone is like the plasterers and the painters, putting the finishing touches on the blood nest. Progesterone also heightens a woman's mood at this time of the month, being happy hormone, to the point of increasing her sexual desire at that time of the month. But progesterone has another effect, and that is on the cervix. Let me magnify the cervix to show you. This is what the cervix looks like. There are two lips and a mucus plug. At this time of the month, with the rise in progesterone, the mucus plug goes, the lips come up a little tighter, and a special form of lubricant is released around the cervix, which is designed to facilitate the entry of sperm up into the uterus. So let's have a look at that. The stage is set for the entry of man. Did you know that between 200 and 500 million sperm are released with one ejaculation? The sperm cell is the smallest cell in the human body. And when I explain to you what happens now, you can see why God made it so. You see, sometimes up to half of the sperm comes back out again. And if the sperm meet this cervix, very difficult to gain entry. But if the sperm meet this cervix, that lubricant literally grabs the sperm and shoots it up into the uterus. And it has got a long way to go, a long journey. And some of them go down the wrong road because there's no road back. And they basically die and are absorbed into the blood and taken away. But some of them go down the correct road and they found their prize, which is the egg. I saw a photograph at a seminar one day of 15 sperm all trying to gain entry into one egg, but only one does. Occasionally two do, and that's when the twins share the placenta. Did you know that within a matter of days of the sperm entering the egg, there is a division to the first two cells? And with that division, the DNA of a new human being is perfectly intact. Now that DNA for that new human being never has been and never will be again. In fact, it's quite phenomenal, isn't it? I think on the resurrection morning there are going to be some surprises of human beings coming up out of the graves. Basically, with that information, when does life begin? There's a lot of discussion about when life begins, doesn't it? Do you know, within days of conception, because that DNA will never be and has never been. Every 7 days there's a division to 2 more cells. It takes a little bit of time, and there is a reason for that, because we need to give this union time to get down and nestle into the wall of the uterus. It's quite phenomenal because at a certain time of the month, the epithelial cells loosen and soften a little bit, allowing the fetus to actually penetrate in two. And it shoots out things like hockey straps and pulls itself into the lining of the uterus. Isn't it a miracle any of us are here? When you consider everything that has to be in place for the development of a new human being. And the psalmist in Psalm 139, verse 14, who wrote the words, "I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made, marvellous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well," he didn't know what I have just shown you. And the next verse, verse 15, it says, "My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth." Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being imperfect. In thy book are all my members written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there were none of them. Beautiful verses showing the development of a new human being in the womb under the direction of the DNA. Do you know what that means? God doesn't have to have a big book, because all that has to be written in the book is our DNA. So with the development of a new human being, what happens to the hormones? Progesterone levels soar 200%. No wonder we often say when a woman's pregnant, she's just blossoming. Her progesterone levels soar. There's one form of estrogen that is there in pregnancy. You see there are 3 estrogens. There's estrone, and estrone is called E1. There's estradiol. Estradiol is given the name E2. And there's estriol. And estriol is the delicate hormone. Estriol is given the name E3. Now, E1, estrone, and E2, estradiol, strong cell proliferation action, whereas estriol is the delicate estrogen. And it's estriol levels that rise in pregnancy. So what happens if the woman does not conceive? What happens if she does not fall pregnant? Then by day 26, progesterone levels are dropping. By day 26, estrogen levels are dropping. And when both of those levels drop, the message to the blood supply to the uterus is to cut. When all those blood vessels seal, then the bloodness comes away. And we are once again at day 1 of the monthly cycle. That's what the monthly cycle should look like. Unfortunately, it does not look like that in a lot of women today, and we're going to address why. You see, Newton's third law of motion states that to every action there is an equal and an opposite reaction. There is always a reason for an imbalance. And in Proverbs 26 verse 2, the Bible says, the curse causeless shall not come. In other words, no problem happens without a cause. There is always a cause. Before we have a look at why there are hormonal imbalances, I want to briefly have a look at sperm. It's very interesting because sperm is an alien to a woman's body, and when sperm enters a woman's body, her immune system rises to attack. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So when a woman's immune system rises to attack, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back her immune system and sperm survives. Otherwise, none of us would be here. But woman's body has memory, and every time her husband sperm enters her, her immune system rises to attack, and it says, oh, it's husband, I'll just stand back. You see, woman's body has memory. But can you imagine how disastrous it can be when a woman has multiple partners? That can have a devastating effect on her immune system. But what also can be disastrous is in the area of anal sex. To have that immune suppressant property in an area that God never meant it to be. It can have a devastating effect again on the immune system. Did you know that our immune system is built up in our colon? What about a pap smear? What is a pap smear? A pap smear is when a little scraping or nick is taken out of the cervix to test for abnormal cells. Let's say a woman has a pap smear, and then her immune system immediately begins to heal, and that night she is intimate with her husband. In the presence of sperm, her immune system has to stand back. Let's say this happens just before she goes to sleep, so the sperm is present in the woman's body all night. Her immune system cannot go back till the morning when gravity causes sperm to come away. Let's say she's a very sexually active woman and this is happening 2 nights out of 3. 6 months later she goes back and gets another pap smear. They happen to do a scrape on the very spot. The results come back, abnormal cells. What caused her abnormal cells? The first pap smear that was never allowed to heal. A woman should be told that for 4 weeks after a pap smear not to allow sperm to enter her. Would it take 4 weeks to heal? Not in a healthy woman. In a healthy woman, she would be healed in 10 days. But there are some women who go to bed too late, who have too much coffee, too much sugar, they don't exercise, they don't drink enough water, they're not eating nourishing food. It would take maybe 4 weeks for that woman. Well, what is causing the imbalance? Let's make a list. In 1957, the first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. 1960s was called the sexual revolution. Women wanted to be able to have sex without having a baby. But men and women are, and will continue to pay a very high price for this so-called sexual freedom. What is the pill? The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. Mexican wild yam contains a plant chemical called diosgenin. And in a laboratory, diosgenin can be converted to progesterone. It's called progesterone because it has an identical molecular structure to the progesterone that is made in woman's body. So the pharmaceutical company cannot patent that. So they add a few more atoms in one area and come up with a synthetic estrogen. They add a few more atoms in another area and come up with a synthetic progesterone. These are the synthetic hormones that are in the pill. And when a woman takes the pill, those hormones are fed into her biochemical pathway that the body uses to make its own hormones, and it causes a disruption. And the body says, what's happening? Must be pregnant. So now, because the body thinks it's pregnant, it doesn't release the egg. And if it doesn't release the egg, corpus luteum's not made. And if it doesn't release the egg, the woman doesn't fall pregnant. So let me show you the result of that. So week after month after month, no ovulation, no corpus luteum. So here we have our progesterone, that is the precursor, the number 1 hormone. It should be there, and estrogen should be here. Month after month on the pill, no ovulation, no corpus luteum. Where's progesterone going? A month after month on the pill with its synthetic estrogen, where's estrogen going? We now have a situation, sadly too common, called estrogen dominance progesterone deficiency. Good slave, bad master, is now the master. Have you read the proverb where it says it's a terrible thing when the slave girl becomes the mistress? So where is estrogen now? It's up here. Here it is up here with its cell proliferator action causing massive cell growth on the ovaries. There's the cysts on the ovaries. Massive cell growth in the uterus. There's the fibroids in the uterus. There's the cysts in the breasts. There's the breast cancer. There's the endometriosis. There's the women. I have so many women come to me between the age of 40 and 65 who say, I cannot lose weight. And the weight is all in the torso. You see, trying to lose weight when estrogen levels are high is like paddling upstream without a paddle. You can't get it. Where's progesterone? Progesterone's down here. Now, no happy hormone. And how does the woman feel a week before her periods? Watch out, she'll bite your head off. I said to one lady, do you get premenstrual tension? She said, no, I just hate my husband for a week every month. One lady said to me, my little girl, 13, and she's just grown horns. We cannot believe what's happened to her. She's 13 and she's got a hormonal imbalance. Why has she got a hormonal imbalance and she's only 13? I would like to suggest that her mother was on the pill. You see, if a woman's on the pill, 5 years before she has a baby, the man and the woman child born of her will have a hormonal imbalance. You have a look at this. Who was given the pill? The baby boomers. How old are the baby boomers now? 50s, 60s. They're going through menopause. How are they faring? Terrible. Weight gain. Hot flushes. What's hot flushes? Too much estrogen. It causes capillary dilation. Husband knows because middle of the night all the blankets get thrown off. 10 minutes later they'll get pulled back on again. I just came from Tasmania today. I have 2 daughters there and several grandchildren. I was on the plane. It was -3 yesterday in Tasmania. I had my woolen coat on. I had my woolen gloves on the plane. The lady next to me, she looked in her 50s. She's a little overweight. Oh, she had a top, her coat off, sleeveless on, she had a fan. I would have liked to make some suggestions, but I cannot, unless I am asked. I would like to suggest that that lady had a bit of a hormonal imbalance. It was freezing outside. And let's have another look at this lady that's going through menopause. She's having hot flushes. She's got weight gain. She's depressed. Progesterone levels are low. She has no desire for sex, and when she has sex, it's painful. The cells that lining her vagina are getting weak and tender. She has no lubricant. She is of all women most miserable. And her husband's secretary is looking better to him all the time. It's a terrible situation. So she goes to the doctor. She said, I'm the CEO of a company. I'm in a meeting. I'm taking a meeting and all of a sudden I start perspiring. She said, it's very embarrassing. So what does the doctor give her? He gives her hormone replacement therapy. What's hormone replacement therapy? More synthetic hormones. Body thinks must be pregnant, so it stops causing the estrogen to cause capillary dilation and it starts concentrating on the breasts and the uterus. The lady's happy because her flushes have stopped. She hasn't lost weight. Depression's no help. She still has no desire for sex, but the flushes have stopped. So what's happening with HRT? Now the body thinks it's pregnant. It concentrates internally. 6 years later, the lady has a lump develop on her breast. She goes to the doctor, he does a test, she has breast cancer. Her doctor takes her off hormone replacement therapy immediately. Why does he do that? He knows it causes breast cancer. So you say to the physician, well, why do you put the woman on it? This is his answer. He says, well, not every woman will get breast cancer. That's true. And it brought her relief. That's true. The flushes stopped. But you say to a woman, what? I'll give you a choice. Breast cancer or hot flushes? What will she say? Bring on the flushes. I'll get a fan. I feel sorry for the doctor because he knows of no other alternative. You see, the pharmaceutical company can't patent this one. And medicine holds a large piece of the pie in what doctors are taught. But I know people who've never been on the pill. Their mothers haven't been on the pill. And by the way, the baby boomers that have been on the pill, let's have a look at their children. How old are their children? They're in their 30s, 40s now. This is the generation where the girls are getting breast cancer, where the girls are getting polycystic ovarian syndrome, where the girls are getting cysts on the ovaries, fibroids in the uterus, the daughters of the baby boomers who are on the pill. This is the generation of young men who have low sperm count. This is the generation of young men who have got penile dysfunction, inability to hold an erection. This is the generation, and I can't say this in every circle, this is the generation where we see an increase in homosexuality. It's an imbalance in the hormones. Do you remember what I said previously? Men and women are, have, and will continue to pay a very high price for this so-called sexual freedom. There's more. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? It's hormones. They're not allowed to give chickens hormones now, so they've genetically modified the chickens to produce more estrogen, so they're still fully developed in 5 weeks. We had a lady do our health program who worked in a chook farm. She said, we find chooks that have escaped, we find them in the bush, they grew this high, and they died because their legs broke because they weren't strong enough to hold them. You see, they kill them before they get that high. So if the human being eats that chicken, or eats the egg from that chicken, what's going to happen? That interference with the hormonal imbalance. We had a guy do our program, he said, I'm 34, I've got 2 mates, one's 34, one's 36. And their father works in the chook farm. And one of them is 6'4", the other is 6'6", comes from a 5'2" mother and a 5'8" father. Where'd that come from? It's the hormonal imbalance. Because if the father works at a chook farm, what are they eating morning, noon and night? Do you know, when I was a little girl, back in the 60s, we had chicken once a year at Christmas Day. I'm a 5th generation Australian. I talked to other Aussies, yeah, we only ever had chicken Christmas Day. And then when I was about 15, I was 15 in about 1969, I think, Kentucky Fried Chicken came to town. Isn't that when Aussies and Henny Penny started eating chicken? And for some reason, Aussies seem to think that the white meats are safer, but they are not. They are not. What about fish? Unfortunately, it's very difficult to find a fish that doesn't have toxins in it today. And if you've got 80% of women on the pill or HRT, the toilet sewage goes out to the sea, the fish feed on that, we're finding female fish with male tendencies and the opposite. And the fish aren't the end of the food chain, and it's almost impossible to find a fish today that doesn't have mercury. What about red meat? It's against the law for cattle farmers to give their cattle growth stimulants. But a cattle farmer's wife did our program. She said the pharmaceutical companies knock on our door once a fortnight pushing the growth stimulants. She said, we don't do it, but many do. And there's a certain amount of time before, if they stop them, it's not picked up in the blood test, but it's still in the tissues. So I myself choose to be a vegetarian. I think it's the only safe option today. If it's in the meat, it's in the products. But I have met some people who are vegetarians, they've never been on the pill, their mother's never been on the pill, there's more. There's plastics. You see, in the molecular structure of estrogen, there is a phenyl ring. And that phenyl ring is the key that unlocks the door to get estrogen into the cell. And plastic today is softened with something called nonylphenol. When I was a little girl, if you left plastic in the sun, it went brittle and cracked. It doesn't go brittle and cracked today. It's soft. It's the nonylphenol. My brother's first car was a second-hand Zephyr. The dashboard was cracked, as it often did with old cars. But dashboards don't crack today, have you noticed? Because they've got nonylphenol in it. So when we get a new car, I open the windows and the doors and put it in the sun and attempt to get those fumes out. Also, the plastic lining tins is bisphenol A. Now can you see both these plastics, what do they have? They have the phenyl ring. So a person can get a hormonal imbalance because of exposure to plastics. One of the worst is heating the plastics. So bottles of water in hot cars and pouring leftover hot soup into plastic containers. When you heat the plastic, more phenol is given off. Dr. Anna Zotto, she's an endocrinologist in America. She was growing breast cancer in flasks in her laboratory. Every time she injected the breast cancer tissue with estrogen, the cancer would grow. She stopped injecting it with estrogen, it would not grow. One morning she came in and it had doubled overnight. She scratched her head. She began to investigate. You know, we should always be investigating, because Newton's third law of motion states that to every action there is an equal and an opposite reaction. Why had her breast cancer doubled overnight? So she rang up the company that made the flasks. She said, "Have you changed your flasks?" They said, "Yes." They now have flasks with nonylphenol in it. The phenol in the plastic, in the flask, had fed the breast cancer. And how many women wear bras that are made out of plastic? What do I mean by that? Nylon, polyester, all of those are basically plastic fibers. That's why I say to people, especially women, be careful what your underwear is made of, especially the bras. See, the current figures are 1 in 4 Australian women breast cancer. And there are several factors. You can see by what I've shown you this evening, the imbalance of the hormones is a big one, but also what women are wearing on their breasts. And some young women put their mobile phones into their sports bras. In fact, apparently you can buy a sports bra today that has a little pocket in there to put the phone in there. No. Keep it right away. So that's another factor that's coming in. Be careful of your exposure to plastics. I think it's impossible to get away from plastic. Handy stuff. But please start to build up in your kitchen cupboards some glass or stainless steel, leftover containers. And if you drink, well, I'm sure you drink water, try and drink out of try and drink out of glass or stainless steel. You can get some hard plastic containers that are BPA free. You see, bisphenol A is BPA. So you can get some plastics that don't have the phenols in them. But as I showed you, these phenols have the key, and you can get a hormonal imbalance because of exposure to plastic. Have a look at what your food is stored in. Have a look at what you're wearing. Try to just wear natural fibres, especially next to your skin. Sometimes if I've got a bit of time in a Big W or Target, I'll go through and I'll have a look at labels on things. Maybe I'm waiting for my husband to get the car fixed or something. And I noticed that a lot of maternity bras are made out of natural fibre. And Modal, M-O-D-A-L, that's the cellulose spun from the birch tree. And also rayon is from wood pulp. So you can get some, they appear to be man-made fibres, but they're made out of wood pulp. So they are considered natural fibres. So the 3 fibres to be cautious of are nylon, polyester and acrylic. Nylon, polyester and acrylic basically are like plastic fibres. Be cautious of plastic. Also herbicides, insecticides, pesticides all break down to something that has nonylphenols in them and chemicals. many chemicals break down to the normal phenols. So these three are called xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens mean estrogen mimickers because of the phenyl rings that they contain. Now these xenoestrogens have strong cell proliferator action like your estrone and your estradiol. So that's what throws the hormones out. Now I'm going to make a list of how we can get the balance back. But before I do, let me just show you the three different estrogens. They're 3 cells. These are estrogen receptor sites on the cell. This one's xenoestrogens, so these are the chemical estrogens. The xeno are 20,000 times stronger than human, so they're huge. Human estrogen, how big's human estrogen? It just sits perfectly into the receptor site, but it is 20,000 times stronger than plant. So how big's the plant estrogen? It's just a tiny slip of a thing that just slips into the receptor site like that. So where are the plant estrogens? Soy and red clover. But the plant estrogen is different. Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says that God gave herbs for the service of man. I love that description, and it's a description of the plant estrogen. So the plant estrogen comes into the receptor site and it knocks. It says, "Excuse me, can I come in?" And the cell says, "No, we've got enough." And so the plant estrogen sits at the door. Do you know what that means? This xenoestrogen can't get in. So it plays a protective role. But if it knocks and says, "Can I come in?" and the person's low in estrogen, of course it'll come in. You see, plants work with the needs of the body. Medicine calls it synergism, working with the body. In Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says God gave herbs for the service of man. They serve you. They work with the needs of your body. Whereas the xenoestrogen has the phenyl ring and it just says, "Get out of my way, I'm coming in whether you need me or not." Soy. Here's the soybean. In Australia, they are not genetically modified yet. In America, they are. And they've been genetically modified to resist Roundup. So this soybean's called Roundup Ready, meaning it can resist Roundup. One farmer said to me in America one year, he said, "We spray it 5 times before market." What's that? 5 doses of insecticides. Already dangerous because it's been genetically modified. 5 doses of Roundup. That is a dangerous soybean. That soybean can increase breast cancer and prostate cancer because it's high in xenoestrogens. It's not dangerous because of the natural estrogens that God put there. In fact, the soybean is probably one of the most potent anti-cancer foods that we have. So it's a pity to throw it out. So if you eat soy, make sure it's not been genetically modified, make sure it's organically grown, and then it's safe. So how can we turn this around? Number 1, eliminate. If you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. Stop the pill. So how are we going to prevent having babies pop up everywhere? Well, sex is 2 parts, so contraception should be 2 parts. The woman's role is to know when she is ovulating, and her body will give her 3 signs. The first sign is that her temperature will change. So a woman should take her temperature before she gets out of bed every morning, and she will find that it will do this, then it'll drop and go up onto a higher plane. The drop and up onto a higher plane will happen around day 14. So taking her temperature every day will allow her to define it. For some women it might be 13, for some women it might be 15. That's her first sign. The second sign that she has begun ovulation is that her vaginal mucus will change. So when estrogen is high, her vaginal mucus is not as profuse and it is white. When progesterone is high, her vaginal mucus becomes more profuse and clear. She will see the changes. The third sign is that her cervix changes. So it's a matter of a woman checking her cervix every day and monitoring it. At first she's got nothing to compare it to, but as the weeks and the months go by, she starts to see those signs and she begins to read her body. And she will find most women ovulate this week here. So she can say to her husband, I'm safe, I'm not safe, I'm safe. And when she is not safe, then it is his responsibility to either master the art of withdrawal or to wear a condom. My daughter Jessica and her husband were married for 4 years before their first baby came. How nice. She had mastered the art of knowing exactly when she was ovulating. You know, when they teach the island women this, they pick it up like that. But when they teach women from society, it's hard for them to pick it up because so women are unaware of how their body's working. So eliminate the pill, eliminate HRT. If a woman has hormonal imbalances going through menopause and implements this list, she will be able to get relief. Eliminate meat and its products. For people that want to eat meat, I say it must be organic. It's not safe to eat any other. But I myself choose to be a vegetarian. I think it's impossible to eliminate plastic. It's handy stuff, but be mindful of your exposure, especially what your body is exposed to. Be mindful of what you're eating and how exposed that food is to plastics. Go organic as much as possible. The more Australians that go organic, the higher the demand and the cheaper it'll become. And get the chemicals out of your home. In my laundry cupboard there is white vinegar, sodium bicarbonate and gumption paste. And if my grandchildren get into my laundry cupboard, they're not going to get sick. They're not going to get poisoned. There are some pretty nasty poisons in the cleaning department in the supermarket today. And they are contributing to the build-up of chemicals in the body. So go for your natural cleaning products. Be cautious what's in your toothpaste, what's in your shampoos, what you're washing your clothes with. So that's how we turn the tap off. Number 2, the liver has the ability to detoxify us from excess estrogen. And it'll send the estrogen down one of 2 pathways. It can go down the hydroxy 2 pathway, then it's out. Or it can go down the hydroxy 16 pathway. If the liver sends it down the hydroxy 16 pathway, it comes back into the body 100 times worse. We don't want that pathway. We want this pathway. I'll call it Highway 2 and Highway 16. And I'm going to give you a list of foods and vitamins and herbs that stimulate Highway 2 and inhibit Highway 16. The cabbage family. The cabbage family are high in a plant chemical called indoles. And indoles encourage Highway 2 and discourage Highway 16. Also vitamin B. Vitamin B6, B9 and B12. The highest source of your B vitamins are in your raw nuts and seeds. But if someone has a hormonal imbalance, they initially may need to supplement with these B vitamins. Licorice, you can get some nice licorice teas. I'm not talking about the lolly licorice. And also flaxseed. need is high in another plant chemical called lignans. Lignans encourage highway 2, discourage highway 16. Number 3, Australia sells a cream called the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. And the Anna's Wild Yam Cream contains diosgenin. And when that cream is applied to the skin, the fat cells take up the diosgenin, and that stimulates the pathway that your body uses to make its own progesterone. So what this cream does, it works with the body to cause a boost in progesterone. And when you boost progesterone, automatically it will balance the other hormones, whether you be man or woman, because as I showed you earlier, for men and women, number 1 hormone is progesterone. You see, your body knows what to do, and the beauty of this cream, it just works with the systems that God has put in place in our bodies to keep the balance. One lady said, no, Barbara, I was on the pill 30 years ago. I said, that's right, 30 years ago, and they're still out. Something is needed to actually bring back the balance. So how does a woman apply the Anna's Wild Yam Cream? Well, she just has a little finger dip almost to the first knuckle, and the first day she applies it to the inside of her arms. She applies it twice a day, morning and night. Next time, maybe the chest. Next time, the abdomen. Next time, inside of thighs. So she alternates the sites of application. And she applies the Anna's Wild Yam Cream every morning and every night for 3 weeks of the month. If a woman is still menstruating, she applies it for these 3 weeks here. So she basically stops when she's menstruating. If she's not menstruating anymore, she just stops for 1 week a month. Some women choose the first or the last week of the month where they stop. How long would a woman do it for? At least a year. One lady said, a year? I said, well, your hormones have been out of balance for 20 years. The good news is it's not going to take 20 years to get it back. But it may take a year and it may take 2. One woman stopped after a year and her flushes came back. What's her body saying? A little bit longer, please. She went back on the cream. 6 months later she stopped and her hot flushes did not return. One lady said to me, after 2 months on the Anna's Wild Yam Cream, a little 13-year-old girl lost her thorns. One man said to me, I just want to thank you for giving me my life back. What's the old saying? Happy life, happy wife, happy life. Many women are not happy because of the hormonal imbalance. And as you can see, it's not just the pill. It can be exposure to one or more or all of those things. That's why the detective hat is needed to find out which one it is. I was in Fiji giving lectures. A big Fijian man came up to me and said, brought his wife, got her by the hand, put her in front of me, and he said, now fix her. There's trouble in the home when the progesterone's not there. I put a 9-year-old girl on the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. She had developed breasts at 8 and had her periods at 9. That's a hormonal imbalance. You know what normal is? 16 to 18 years. You hardly even hear that today. And you can see why. Because of the environmental poisons that we are subjected to that are causing the imbalance. I met a 90-year-old lady who was on the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. You see, she had osteoporosis. And what progesterone does is boost bone-building cells. So everyone with osteoporosis should be on the yam cream to boost progesterone, which will boost the bone-building cells. High estrogen opposes thyroid function. So many women who are on the pill in their 20s are now in their 50s, 60s with thyroid problems. They need to go on the Anaswad Yam Cream and get that estrogen down. I have seen many, particularly women, conquer their depression by going on the Anaswad Yam Cream, which will boost their happy hormone. And at the same time, they implement the 8 laws of health, which is fresh air, sunshine, stop anything that could cause an imbalance. Refined sugar, caffeine, alcohol, all can come in and contribute to the imbalance. Another law of health is exercise, going to bed early, eating a plant-based diet, trust in divine power, drinking adequate water. They're the 8 laws of health. One lady rang me up, she said, Barbara, I've been to the health retreat 6 months ago, I started the Yam Cream, I was feeling so good, but I haven't been feeling good the last month. I said, have you changed anything? She said, well, I started having coffee again. That was enough. That was enough to throw the balance out. So as you can see, the Anaswad Yam Cream has helped many, many women from all ages for all the associated symptoms that I've discussed. What about a man? A man can take the Yam Cream. There's a Yam Cream called His Yam Cream, put out by Anaswad Yam Cream. A man would take that for low sperm count. He would take it for penile dysfunction. One man said to me, this stuff just puts lead in my pencil. Also for prostate problems. One man did our program, he was on a hormone injection every 3 months to get his testosterone levels down. He developed breasts, he was getting hot flushes. He was 68. He made a decision not to have the injection anymore. He began the Yam Cream. He implemented the 8 laws of health. He stopped his coffee, started to go to bed early, started to exercise. His wife emailed me 10 months later. She said, the breasts have gone down. He doesn't have hot flushes anymore, and his testosterone levels are the best they've been for years. So simple. You see, God designed the human body to heal itself. It wants to heal us. It just needs to be given the right conditions. Before I close, I would like to just go one step further in the menopausal women. I mean, so many. Yes, the Anaswad Yam Cream, by getting the estrogen down, will help them to lose weight. It will also stop the flushes. But what about the desire for sex? It can help with the desire for sex. What about the very tender cells lining the vagina and the lack of lubricant? Well, there is something else that she can implement that will help this fairly quickly, and it's called yoni stones. Yoni is Asian for vagina, and these yoni stones are gaining popularity. They're made out of a nephrite jade, and they were developed in the Chinese dynasty to help the young concubines be sexually toned for the emperor. So let me explain. These yoni stones come in 3 sizes. So this would be the larger size, and then there's a middle size, and then there's a smaller size. And what a woman does, she starts with the largest stone and she inserts it until it touches the cervix. There are 2 little holes there that dental floss can be put in when it's time to extract. So what a woman will do is she will wear this stone for 1 hour a day for week 1. Week 2, 2 hours a day. Week 3, 3 hours a day. Week 4, 4 hours a day. Week 5, 5 hours a day. And as she wears the stone, about every maybe half an hour, she tightens her muscles against it. She will continue wearing that stone for 5 hours a day for 5 months. Now her pelvic girdle is strong, and she can go to the middle-sized stone, and she would wear that for 5 hours a day for about 6 months. And then she would go to the smaller stone. Let me draw the pelvic girdle. Let me stretch it out. There is the coccyx, bottom of the spine. Basically, the pelvic girdle stretched out looks like this. And there is the belly button. Now the muscles basically are going like this, and then around the orifices there's muscles going like this. And many women lose the strength of their pelvic girdle. One of the signs that a woman has lost the strength in her pelvic girdle is she'll have uterine prolapse, vaginal prolapse, urethral prolapse. You would be shocked at the amount of women in their 60s, 70s that this is happening to. Muscle knows no age. So whether a woman is 9 or 90, she can have pelvic girdle strength. And what these yoni stones do is they strengthen the muscles in that area. And little by little, it causes strength to the pelvic girdle. Now let me tell you some of the results that I am seeing with these yoni stones. One lady, it was actually the midwife who helped my daughter have her baby. She had a uterine prolapse. And the doctor was about to do an operation where he has to put meshing to try and hold the prolapse up. She heard about the yoni stones, so she started to wear it. She went back 3 months later and the doctor said, "What have you done? You no longer have a prolapse. There is no need for an operation." You see, gravity is constantly pulling us down. And that's why the prolapses happen. The only way to strengthen the human body is to defy gravity. And the yoni stones give a strength to those muscles to hold it up. So uterine prolapse, vaginal prolapse, bladder prolapse. One young woman had twins. Both twins were 6 pounds. That's a lot of pressure. And ever after, every time she laughed or coughed, she would urinate a little bit. So she was incontinence, and she's only in her early 30s. She heard about the yoni stones. She began to wear them. She said within 2 months, she no longer had incontinence. It had strengthened that pelvic girdle. Remember, it's just a muscle, and the muscle can be strengthened. Did you know at the moment there are 800 claims going to court because of damage caused by the mesh? The mesh that's sewn in to try and hold that prolapse up. I feel so sorry for the doctors. I feel so sorry for the pharmaceutical companies that have developed this prolapse, trying to help women. Do you know what's necessary for women to strengthen their pelvic girdle? Then there's no prolapse and there's no need for operations. There's no need for mesh. Can you see that? Some other feedback that I'm getting from the yoni stones. This is in America and Australia. I go to America every year, so there are women there who are giving me feedback. One lady said to me that after 3 months of wearing the stone, sex was no more painful. You see, as she wore the stone, her muscles got stronger, the blood supply came, the blood started feeding the cells that line the vagina, and they became once again strong and soft. Several women have told me that the lubricant has returned. So I've got one couple, and they're in their mid-50s, they said, "We just about stopped having sex." The man said, "I am now able to get an erection because of the yam cream." And the lady said, "And it is no more painful for me because of the yam cream and wearing the yoni stones." People are aging too young. Remember, muscle knows no age, and these are just muscles. One lady told me she had lower back problems, and since she's been wearing the yoni stone, she doesn't have lower back pain anymore. And you understand that when you look at this pelvic girdle. Something else that strengthens the pelvic girdle is rebounding. Are you familiar with rebounding? Trampoline. All you have to do is get on the trampoline and do this. And when you get really good at that, you can start jumping. Anyone that's incontinent, if they get on the rebounder, they're incontinent. So they've got to go to the toilet before they get on the rebounder. But that shows straight away that strengthens that muscle. Nice to know that God has provided ways that the human body need not suffer, it need not deteriorate, and if it has deteriorated, praise be to God that He gave us a body that has the ability to revive, strengthen, and once again function well. The Anna's Wild Yam Cream is made by a little company. It's just a man and a woman who own this company in Taree. So you can Google it, you can get it online, you can order it from us. I told you how the woman applies it. How does the man apply it? Because a man is not cyclic, he just applies it once a day with no break. One lady said, I tried the cream, but it didn't work. I said, how long were you on it for? She said, 2 months. After 2 months, it's barely even starting to balance. So please give it a year. Remember, nature's process of healing and upbuilding is gradual, and to the impatient it seems slow. But in the end, it will be found that nature, untrammeled, does her work wisely and well, when given the right conditions. And in Galatians 6 verse 9, the Bible says, let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we will reap if we faint not. And in Hebrews chapter 10, I think it's about verse 35, it says, cast not away therefore thy confidence in the richest great recompense of reward, for ye have need of patience, in that after you have done the will of God, you might receive the promise. Have faith in this body. It's an amazing creation, and it has the ability to heal itself. So thank you for your attention this evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.